Hello, my name is LaRose Angela Richardson. I'm an intercessor and I'm a co-author of It Cost Me Everything by Prophetess Kimberly Moses. And also I'm also a new upcoming author of my new book. And the book is called Walking in Total Freedom After Healing from Deep Inner Wounds. And today the subject we're going to talk about is low self-esteem. And with low self-esteem, a lot of times we don't know we have it until something really drastic happens in our life, and then we realize that we have low self-esteem. And of course, from the last video, I was talking about coming from from an abusive marriage from my first husband, and you would think that I would have learned my lesson after that first marriage, being in an abusive situation, but I didn't. After I moved back home, I was went back, started working at a local nurse home as a CNA, and I worked there for like a year or so, and then I started dating again, and I started dating this man, and so while I was dating him, I started going to nursing school. So I quit working at the nursing home, and I got me a 3 to 11 job at a local nursing home in where I lived at, and so I was able to go to school full time during the day, and then at night I would go to that job on 3 to 11, and I did this for like 2 years because it took me like 2 years to complete the practical nurse program, and so what I would do, I would go to my clinical sites during the morning, or go to class during the morning, and then afternoons I would go and work on that 3 to 11 shift, and I began to work and that would begin to be my routine. And I did that, and then like I said, I would start dating this young man, and we started dating. We had dated for about a year, and then he asked me to marry him, and I told him yes. So we got married, and like I said, he was the nicest, sweetest person he could ever be. But once we got married, his whole personality changed. He had like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde personality. He was real jealous. He didn't want me to go anywhere. He didn't want me to listen. I was going to work or going to class. When it got to, before we got married, he would go to church with me, and a lot of times, a lot of men, they do that. Not that I'm bashing any men, or some women do that as well. When you're dating them, they would go to church with you just to get you hooked, and then afterwards, after you marry them or whatever, then they'll stop going. They really wasn't interested in church. They was just doing that to hook you. And so then when it was after we got married, then he didn't want to go to church anymore. So I was still wanting to go to church because I loved church, and I loved going to serve the Lord, and I loved going to hear the word of God. And so then started being a problem about me going to church. He would fuss if I wasn't in the house at a certain time, if I wasn't in the house by at least 11 o'clock or whatever, or 12 11 o'clock. He had a problem with it, and which it was strange because when I was working on 3 to 11 shift, half the time I didn't get home till late. So that really didn't make any sense for what he was saying, because at the time I didn't live in Vidalia. When we got married, I didn't live in Vidalia. We lived about like maybe 12 miles from Vidalia. So if you get off by the time you make your rounds with the other person, and then by the time you get off, you by the time you make it home, it's maybe 11:30 or quarter to 12. And so that just didn't seem feasible what he was saying, because I was already working on 3 to 11 and getting home late. But when it came to church and getting home late, that was a problem. Anyway, but so I stayed in that marriage for like 2 years, and what made me leave that marriage is it was just too overbearing, too controlling. You couldn't do anything. You couldn't go anywhere. You couldn't hang out. You couldn't go to your family house. It's always a problem if you go to your parents' house, or it's always a problem as long as they had to be there up under you all the time, and it just got overbearing. And then and so then when I went and passed the state boards, I passed the test for state board. Then the problem really started, because I was started making a little bit more money than he he was making at the job he had. And then he really, the violence, he really got violent. And when what I did, he the first time he hit me was the last time he hit me, because I knew from the first marriage, after I was hit, that usually if they hit you one time, it's gonna repeat the process. So I didn't want to stay there. I didn't want to I didn't want to go through that again. I already knew the scenario. But anyway, so I got out that relationship, and I moved back. I had got me up a house down the road from my mom's house, and I moved in there. And then for like 2 weeks, about a month later, I got me and my mom were listening to the radio station, and on the radio station there was a marital announcement, and they had the announcement, and they announced that he was getting married again. And I was like, oh Lord. I said, oh God. I said, what, already? I said, so it seemed like to me this relationship was already going on while we was married. But nevertheless, it was a blessing to me, because like I said, I didn't want to get back in that relationship. I wanted to move forward, and so this what so I quit dating. I quit dating a long time. And so I was going to church and doing things in the church, but I really hadn't gave my whole life to Christ. I was just, how you do in the church, you kind of like straddling the fence, which we know we can't be straddling the fence, but that's what I was doing at the time. I really hadn't really gave my whole life to Christ. I was just going to church basically for just to be going. And so then I started, my friends wanted to go to the club. So I said, well, they kept talking, said, come on, Angela, let's go to the club. You needed some time. You need to kind of wind down. Let's go to the club. So I went to the club with them several times, and I messed around and met this other young man at the club, and lo and behold, we started dating. And he ended up being the same type of man, the controlling, don't want you to do nothing, you can't do this, you can't do that. And then when it was time to get out of that relationship, I ended up having to have a restraining order put against him, because he was threatening my life. He was breaking in my home and threatening my life. And I told my mom about it, and she wanted me to get a restraining order. So I got a restraining order against him, and I filed it at the courthouse where I was living at, and they served it to him, and they told him he couldn't come in 100 foot of me. And so then I was like, and I began to wonder, I said, Lord, what is it with me that I keep drawing and attracting the same type of men? And God, and he spoke to me and told me, because you're wounded people attract wounded people. And that's what I was doing. I was had something inside of me that was attracting those same type of people. And then when I realized that, when the Lord spoke that to me, I realized that I really had to just buckle down and be intentional about my walk with God. And I refused to date anymore. I didn't want to date anybody. My friends would come to me and say, well, hey, I want you to meet my cousin, or I want to meet you. I want you to meet this guy right here. And I was like, no, I'm not finna date anymore. I'm finna really get serious with God. I'm finna really buckle down and really get serious with God. I said, because it's something in me that keep attracting these type of people. And I don't want to keep going through my whole life with these type of people. And so what I did, I really, a local they had at a church, they had a guest revival come there from out of town, and I went to the revival, and the man of God was preaching, and what he was talking about was about changing your life. God is steady pursuing us, and he's steady trying to get our attention, but we steady trying to run the other way. And he was saying, he was standing there talking to me, and I received everything he was saying. And when after he got to preaching, he had an altar call. And so I know I needed God. I'm just gonna be real with you. I know I needed God. I wasn't trying to be in denial. I know I needed God, because the life I was leading was not leading me in the right direction. I was keep running into the wrong men,